Welcome to the Nerds Social Club podcast, episode 95. Once again, we're recording live on YouTube. So if you're watching this, please feel free to leave your comments, questions, whatever we're talking about. As we're talking about, get involved in the conversation. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you get involved? If you're watching it, get involved. Feel part of the show.
Best thing to do.
Yeah, feel part of the show. Get involved. When we're talking about what we are talking about, a very busy week for the trailers. Aaron, it feels like the world is starting to wake up.
It does. It some of this stuff kind of like just came out of the latter part of the week, and I was a little worried leading into the end of the week. I was like, oh, what are we gonna have to talk about? But yeah, there's more and more news seems to be kind of spilling out. More and more people are. Publishers and studios seem to feel a bit excited, you know what I mean? That they can start pushing the stuff out and might be light at the end of the tunnel finally.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more confidence, isn't it? In everything going on. I think people now, we've known for a couple of weeks. I think people feel like there's a lot more firm dates. As we've mentioned lots of times, America's vaccination program's been excellent. The UK's vaccination program's been really good as well. It's slowed down a little bit in the last couple of weeks, and certainly this month it's going to slow down. But I think, definitely by putting out there that you can watch these movies for the next 2 or 3 months, not only in the cinema but at home, then they've got all bases covered. And the trailers we've seen this week, obviously the likes of Black Widow, the likes of obviously Loki, which is Disney Plus anyway, show that confidence, and it's all good. And we'll be talking about those trailers in a moment with a few others, including Space Jam, which is weird to say the least. It's very weird, some of the Easter eggs in there. It's very much a Ready Player One style movie with all the Easter eggs in there. But what have you been watching this week, Aaron? What have you dropped that knowledge for me?
I have finally finished off Ozark on season 3 on Netflix, and it is a phenomenal show. Honestly, I didn't really expect much of it. It's kind of, you get into season 1 and it's a bit of a slow start. You're trying to figure it out. It feels very much like Breaking Bad, like elements of that. You've got like someone who gets pulled into this kind of like criminal world, but doesn't really kind of fit in necessarily. But as they go kind of through the seasons, they grow into this kind of stature. But the whole point of it is kind of like more from a money laundering and kind of like managing businesses. Like, again, it's like not really kind of like the violence or like the drug aspect of it so much. So it's kind of like a completely different perspective. And the guy who's the lead in it, his name's escaping me right now, but he's absolutely fantastic. And it's funny because he's usually in these very comedic roles as well.
Bateman.
Jason
Bateman.
How do you
not know who Jason Bateman is? He was in Teen Wolf 2, for God's sake.
He's been in loads of things.
He's in loads. But he is.
He's absolutely.
We spoke about this before. He's a good actor. Really good actor.
Yeah, but no, absolutely phenomenal. Just the whole cast as well is just fantastic.
Last of the Corinthians, 1878, says Ozark defo best show since Breaking Bad. High praise indeed.
Absolutely. But yeah, it really took me by surprise. Season 3, the way they end it, just mind blown. Okay. Just very, very good ending. Yeah. And then season 4 is going to be the final season on Netflix.
Interesting. You've been watching something else, and I want to talk about it, so let's talk about it.
For all mankind.
What a show. The show.
What a show.
The show that nobody's watching.
No.
Because it's on Apple TV. But it's excellent.
Yeah, it really is.
So basically...
It's fantastic.
Yeah, if anyone doesn't know the story about it, basically, it's a show about an alternative past. What would happen, basically. So basically, the premise is, what would happen if Russia had got to the moon first? Now, when I first heard this, I thought it was going to be like Red Dawn or something. Like proper out there, like they got to the moon first, so that means this happened, and that means that happened, and they find Hitler in Argentina. Proper mad stuff. But it doesn't mean that at all. What it means is that actually, without going into it too much, but actually the world gets going a lot quicker in terms of technology and what it means for there to be an actual space race, and what it means for the Cold War, and what it means for everything, all technology basically. And I mean, the funniest thing is when you were like telling me, "Oh, I'm watching this first episode and I'm really confused. Why is this person?" I was like, "That's the first episode of the second series." So
I knew you were going to bring that up.
right.
I knew you wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean,
you've
got to share your your trials and tribulations. But I
was absolutely baffled. I started going through it and I was just like, all right, I remember the trailer and I don't remember these parts being in it at all, and I'm really confused, and I feel like they're setting it up like you've had to watch something else before this, and I'm like, what's going on?
The first season
still seemed interesting.
Yeah, the first season you had to watch. Yeah. So well done for that.
Rookie mistake.
But it's I mean, I don't want to give anything away because it's in the second season now. It's just gone through the midpoint of the second season. So it's there to be watched for everybody. And if you've got Apple, or you can, if you buy an Apple device, you'll probably get Apple TV for the first 12 months.
I was going to say, most people out there probably have Apple Plus, and they just like...
They don't know, And do you know what? I've only watched 3 things on Apple Plus. Ted Lasso, this, and I'm trying to think of the other one, and I can't think what it's called, but it's got the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in it. Mythic Quest. And all 3 shows have been brilliant, absolutely brilliant. All 3 shows have been really, really good.
I was going to say, at least, I mean, I haven't seen Mythic Quest, but I know for All Mankind and Ted Lasso, could easily win awards.
Yeah, well, Ted Lasso has, hasn't it?
High level type of. Yeah, exactly.
No,
high level shows, like really, really.
This,
really
like All Mankind, has got really, really good acting talent in that you've seen before. What I really like about All Mankind is that it does actually take things that have actually happened in the real world and uses them. So there's things, and there's things to come that you haven't seen yet. So obviously, and it subverts them, but that comes down to the simple fact that the thing that kicks it all off with Russia winning the space race is that it's just subverting.
It's such an amazing opening episode as well.
But it's just slightly subverting real life, and then everything that goes on from there is basically a version of real life, just slightly different because that one event. So there's things that happen in it all the time that did happen in the real world, and actually there's like extra bits on Apple TV to explain those things to you. And also there's things in it that were planned but didn't quite happen. So there's a thing at the end of the first season, the thing we were talking about in our WhatsApp group, me and Nick, and I was like, that freaked me out. That thing, which I can't mention because it's part of don't want to ruin it. It was supposed to happen in real life, and then there's just different quirks of real life and stuff. It's a really, really good show, though. Really good show.
Well, I was going to say that thing with it was Werner von Braun. It looked like, was that like a real song? You remember the song bit where like he has to go in front of Congress, and he has to testify, and there's like a comedic sketch on TV.
Well, it probably
will
be.
Like that was like legitimate.
Yeah, because Von Braun's in it. He's in the first few episodes, and anyone like who doesn't know was like he was part of Operation Paperclip. And if you've watched Hunters on Amazon, did you watch Hunters? You watched Hunters, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
So if you've watched Hunters, he's in Hunters as well, because he's a real person that. He was a Nazi. He created the V2 bomber. He was a Nazi scientist.
A scientist.
And there was a thing called Operation Paperclip, where basically the Americans got a load of Nazi scientists to come over. Russians got basically the rest of them, and they come and work them. And he basically invented the space race because of the V2. So he's in it for a bit, and you see a little bit about him. And anyone who's seen, as I said, seen the Hunters as well will know. Will know what I'm talking about. So it's a really, really good show. I'm on.
Well, because even Molly Cobb, like that group of female astronauts, that was like that whole program was it was the Mercury program or something like that.
Yeah,
like, that was a whole program and stuff like that got scrapped. And
well, I watched the real stuff on Disney Plus, which has sadly been cancelled after one season. But that's mentioned in it. That's actually mentioned in it, where there was a NASA were looking for a group of. We're looking for like well, they weren't looking for females. The females were looking to do it themselves, and like there was one of them was the wife of one of the. I think it might have been Gordo's wife in that as well. And they were laughed at.
Oh, Tracy Stevens.
They were basically laughed at in real world. But in this, they get the go at. We won't say why, but yeah, it's a really good show. I'm up to date. They come out every Friday, and I'm up to date with it. So I think there's about 3 episodes left of the second season. So if you've got Apple TV, it's definitely worth jumping on. Saul Goodman says Defending Jacob with Chris Evans on Apple TV is good as well. It's quite good. I think a lot of things are good on it because they've gone out and sought the best talent, and it's Apple. After the end of the day, they're not going to waste money. And yeah, if you've got Apple TV, if you've got access, definitely watch Ted Lasso. It is amazing. Honest to God, everyone just looks at it as in like, well, it's a thing about an American football.
But every single person I've told to watch it, by the end, it's like, that's amazing. Yeah. Everyone so much. It was such a good recommendation.
Yeah, it's got like awesome. As we said before, it's got like the wholesomeness of like a Scrubs, but mixed in with like a Channel 4 comedy. Like it's got everyone who's British is like from a Channel 4 comedy, and everyone American is from like Scrubs. Like, you know what I mean? It's amazing. It's like Friday night dinner, or the In-Betweeners meets like Scrubs or something like that. It's such a good mix. So. Definitely good.
And that's I keep telling like, you know, a bunch of Americans like that, you know, I work with, like, listen, you don't have to like football, like you don't have to like get it, know it, like just watch it and just like, because it doesn't really like dwell on the football that much, really. Like it's the coaching aspect, but it's more of it's
a human
personal
side,
relationship.
It's just really good.
Yeah, exactly. So I know people who like aren't into sports, and it's like that's such a good show.
Terry Shaw, sorry, in the comments, and I think this is going off Ozark. I'm hoping this. He's saying it's the best series since Fringe, and then he's put later down in the comments, anyone seen Fringe? Terry, I watched all of Fringe, mate. Fringe was amazing. Fringe was such a good show. It was the best. It's the best show since the X-Files for that kind of thing, and it was. Some of the things the chances they took in Fringe, like that episode when they realised they were in an alternative reality or universe, and they realised they were at the top of the Twin Towers in New York, which just blew my mind because it literally didn't come out that long after, like maybe 9 years after the towers had been destroyed, and it just blew my mind that they were prepared to do that on TV so quickly. It's such a good show that had loads of really, really interesting ideas as well. You know, when you watch it, like, and that's it, like a little bit like For All Mankind, even though For All Mankind plays it very straight. Fringe was that kind of show where it was like, again, it just subverted reality, but obviously in an X-Files way. So it was all tried to be based on real science, but just took it that step too far. Not step too far. Like the main guy in it, the scientist, was basically always on LSD.
Walter.
Yeah, Walter was always on LSD. But he was like saying it's not because he was a drug addict. It was because he was like pushing his mind as far as you could go to come up with all these mad concepts, and it was just phenomenal. And then then there's a thing with his son, and when you find out what happened to his son, it's just like, oh, this is mad. This is brilliant show. Not enough people seen it.
It makes me want to go rewatch it because there's so much detail in it and so many like awesome episodes because it was built for like Fox TV, so it was that network. It had to have like so many episodes.
Yeah,
but the episodes were all really well written. Yeah. Like it's kind of the show that thrived off like having these independent episodes and not like almost not being fluff. You know what I mean? But such a good show.
It was a really, really
good shout, Terry Shaw.
Good shout. Terry Shaw's also like what he wants to know: Walking Dead, yes or no? No, I give up on it. Series 4, I think, something like that. But
I'm just not a zombie person. Zombieland and
I am, but I give up on it because it was like a computer game. It was just like complete a level. Well, now you've got exactly the same level again with just different characters. A rubbish computer game.
Well, that's why I always wondered with The Walking Dead. Like it seemed like it was like at its peak, but I felt like they had to have a clear like arc for it and just kind of end it.
Problem is,
because once you got past a certain length, it's the same thing.
When you've got something like that and it's based on a comic book, but it is you know what comic books are like. You've got to like rehash all the time with comic books, otherwise they go really stale. And that just didn't. That just introduced a new human bad guy, and your first episode, someone will do something mad, And everyone will go, "Whoa, it's mad because you did this," and then nothing will happen in the last episode of the season. Something mad will happen. Everyone will go, "Oh, something mad happened," and I was like, all I ever read about Walking Dead is it's boring. Anyway, I have watched this week. Well, I literally finished it off tonight. I've been watching The Flight Attendant for the last few nights.
So
so I finished.
I was going to say, did that just come on TV in the UK as well?
It's been on for a couple of months, I think, or something like that. So obviously 8 episodes. Obviously starring what's her name, Kelly Kuruko.
I'm not helping you because I don't know how to say it.
Kelly Kuruko. I'm just going to say Kelly Kuruko. I don't care. Fit one out of fit one out of Bang Theory. I mean, okay. You know what I'm talking about, lads. The other one would have absolutely zero chance in the real world of actually getting with in in that,
Penny.
Yeah, Penny. Yeah, Penny. Yeah, you know what? Really good. I was intrigued by the idea, and as it went along, it got better and it got more twisty and turny, and there was a nice little thing with her own mental state, and it was good little show. 8 episodes, as I said, a few loads of twists and turns. Really interesting concept with the guy talking to her a lot, who, don't want to spoil it, but there's a guy talking to her all the way along. She has like mind palaces, which is weird, and I really enjoyed it. And you know, you could smash this out in a weekend if you wanted to. No problem. And it was, and hopefully there'll be a second season because it was good and it's opened the door for a second season. So we'll have
it's very, very, very chaotic, but like it's kind of one of those things that as the plot goes, it's just like it just gets messier and messier in the best, most entertaining way.
In the best, yeah. But based on the fact that her mind is so chaotic more than anything else, it's not like mad. It's just like because she's an unreliable narrator because she's a drunk, basically. Yeah. Because she's an alcoholic.
Functioning
alcoholic. No, I think at the start of it she's functioning. I'm not sure how functioning she is as it goes along. But she's a functioning alcoholic, so she is a unreliable narrator. So that's and
you know, when you learn like how she got there, as a drunk and
it is really good. It is.
Yeah, you get a lot of backstory that you think you're not gonna get, and it just the levels to it. Lots of levels.
Yeah, it was good. Really good. You can't really go into it too much. Take a deep dive because it's just one of those shows where it's people will come in at their own pace and own time, watch it in their own time.
But like you said, it's 8 episodes. It's easy to smash out, so we encourage you to go watch it.
Yeah, I mean it's there to be watching. It's HBO Max in America, isn't it? It's on Sky. It's on Sky One here, but it's on your Sky box if you've got Sky, basically. To watch any time you want. So if you've got Sky, it's there to be watched. Okay, so I've also been watching, continuing to watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and there was an episode this week where it was just absolutely killed me. It's the one where they want to form a band, and the the song about the Dark Man or something, and it's just unbelievable. The lyrics in it, it's just unbelievable, absolutely mental.
Some of the, so I've forgotten. I remember like bits and pieces. I haven't watched it in a while, but like it's just such a mad show. And I've seen Charlie Day speak on interviews, and he's like, yeah, basically we all get together and we see like how far we can push Danny DeVito before he threatens to quit. Like that's like the premise of the writing is like, what can we get Danny to do? Like he'll actually do. Like that's each episode like that, and it's just so mad. I think I heard you and Baz talking about it, and Baz said he couldn't get into it, right? Or...
Yeah, it's not quite his comedy.
It's so out there. Yeah. But like as you can, do you know what? It reminds me of kind of like the writing of like Rick and Morty. Like every episode, you're just like, what the, am I watching? It's just absolutely mad.
So let's just get into some of the news. So big news today about Sony are moving all their
streaming.
Everything they're going to stream is going to go to Netflix, which is interesting because a while ago we had a chat about Disney should just get their streaming platform at least, so that they can get Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse onto Disney Plus at least. But it looks like they've missed out, and it's all going to go to Netflix, which is really interesting for Netflix because obviously, and it's really interesting for Disney actually because it gives them a bit of a problem. It gives them a problem that their films that they co-produce are going to end up on their streaming rival, which leaves them with a bit of a problem because obviously they don't want that. They don't like that. They didn't like that with the fact when they basically cancelled Daredevil and the Defenders and those shows because they knew Disney Plus was coming. And now that's just going to be that's going to be very interesting because as that world gets bigger, which it is with all these different MCU the Spider-Verse films, and the fact that they are going to bleed into the MCU, that leaves a little bit of a conundrum for Disney Plus or for Disney Marvel.
Yeah, see, and I see it in a kind of opposite light as well, like, because I imagine if you're going through and you're feeling in an MCU mood and you want to go through,
I'm in such an MCU mood.
But when you go and watch a Spider-Man film, you're like, yeah, but I want to go watch Civil War now. It forces you to go. So it's all. Have you ever heard like the economic principle of like peanut butter and jelly and like bread? Like they're opposing items, but they all kind of complement each other as far as a buying market.
It's not really it's not really a thing here.
You get that like the whole thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. I don't want to get it because it just sounds utterly. I mean, peanut butter and jelly
milk and cereal
is just utter nonsense. Like it is just a typical American invention of putting utter shite together, and them thinking it working.
Oh, do you want to hear this one? This one was one I was introduced to recently. Peanut butter fluff.
Okay, right.
It's a jar of marshmallow inside, and you spread it on with peanut butter.
Do you know what? Why not just introduce yourself to crack, right? And put it on
cocaine.
Put it on some white bread, for God's sake. What? Honest to God, no wonder that country is in the mess it's in when this is the national diet: peanut butter and jelly. What are they? And it's not even. It's jam. Why am I even calling it jelly? It's jam. Why are they mad?
I just live here. I didn't make the rules.
Well, you need to represent the Queen and start saying things as in the English tongue and go, no, I reject that jelly. That is jam. Jelly wobbles, for God's sake, sir. Have you not seen The Crown?
I've got my kids trained. We make pancakes over the weekend, usually on Saturday morning, and my kids all want jam on the pancakes. I'm like, yes.
They're called flapjacks.
Jam on your pancakes.
They're called crepes, for God's sake, man. Representing Europe now. Yeah.
But back to the
go on. Back to the principle.
Circling round, but yeah, essentially, like I think the two kind of like complement each other in the fact that like you're never gonna get Netflix just for Spider-Man. Most people, anything, love all this are gonna have Disney Plus anyway. Because why wouldn't you? So I don't know if it hurts them. I think it's just kind of like more of a play for where are you going to spend most of your time. And the only other thing I'd seen with this is that Netflix has signed Sony's 2022 Marvel slate. So I don't know what that means for the 2021 and prior. Like, where do all those movies go? And I imagine they're still locked up with, in the US at least, it's with Stars. And that's the other thing as well. This is only a US deal for now. I imagine it will go international.
No, I appreciate that, but let's be honest. They're not going to be that arsed, are they? About they're going to look about the American market. I find it strange that Disney didn't want to try and grab them to the platform just so they've got everything in the same place, especially with the way it is here. Yeah. Easily integrated all those movies into the Marvel section of Disney Plus without any problem, like they have done with the X-Men films and stuff. So I just find it weird that they've allowed that to happen for their films to go, because like Spider-Man's going to be on Netflix. I mean that's to me that's just.
Do you think there's a bit of ruthlessness there from Disney, because there is a clause, as far as what I've read in the trades, there is a clause in the contract that says if Sony gets bought out, that the Spider-Man rights revert back to Disney and Marvel. So rather than buying it, do you think they've just gone, nah? let's see who's going to buy you and how much money you get. Let's see you struggle. Because if you get bought out, especially with the pandemic, it's only going to have accelerated the situation. So they've just gone, well, we know we're getting Spider-Man back eventually. It's just a matter of time.
Are they though? I mean, I honestly don't feel.
We said the same thing about Fox though, didn't we?
No, I know,
like,
but Fox was a mess. Like the X-Men were coming to the end of their cycle, and they had nothing to replace it with. Whereas this feels like the Spider-Verse is only just getting started, and they obviously by going to Netflix are taking less risk. So I just find it weird that you'd let your main competitor. And I know what you're saying. They might be they might just think about it, going, well, Netflix is there anyway. We're doing our business, they're doing our business. But I just would have thought they would have liked everything under one roof. Because all I can see out of this is that Netflix will just buy Sony, rather than, and then what happens then if Netflix buys Sony, then Disney is never getting Spider-Man back ever.
Well, I think if Netflix buys Sony, though, like the company and the whole movie slate, I think regardless, the Spider-Man rights still go back to Disney.
Okay, all right. I'll take your word for it.
But I mean, I can see the other side of the coin. We're trying to play devil's advocate, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It does strike me as strange that Disney didn't offer it, because not only can you say, well, we want the Spider-Man stuff on Disney Plus, they could put the rest of the stuff on Hulu and beef up Hulu.
Yeah, only for.
I mean, I know for you guys,
only for your rubbish country with your peanut butter and jelly, but for countries like my proud country, which is on fire, we've got. Well, it's all integrated though. It doesn't really matter. Matthew Lamb says, seeing latest news today that Sam Raimi and Tobias Maguire could reunite for Spider-Man 4. Is that possible with Sony and Marvel's deal? Yeah, I think it is. I think it is, Matt. Because at the end of the day, Spider-Man is theirs, so it would be no different from Into the Spider-Verse, I imagine. It's there. All they have to do is call it Spider-Man 4. It's a different continuity. It's not Marvel's continuity. It wouldn't be a film that is produced by Marvel like like Tom Holland's. So if it's called 4, whereas all the other Spider-Man films have got a set name after them, Far From Home and all that kind of thing, then I couldn't see a problem. I can't see that happening because Tobey Maguire's an absolute blade. Let's get it right. Him and Harry Maguire. Must be something in the name.
I was going to say Sam, and it's tough as well because now Sam Raimi is on Doctor Strange as well, so I think he might be more focused in that world now. Because I think that's where he always wanted to kind of like be in, and I think if you go back and watch the original Spider-Man, there's a Doctor Strange name drop as well. So
yeah, that is because they go Doctor Strange taken.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
it's taken.
Yeah. No, I think they can do it. I don't think there's any issue with him doing it. They produce Marvel Studios produce the Spider-Man's Tom Holland films, and Kevin Feige he doesn't have anything on the books, but he has helped them out with Venom in terms of his knowledge, and I'm sure he's doing similar things. I'm sure he's not afraid of picking a phone up or having them phone him when they need to work out a problem of how to build this universe. I don't think he's got any... And to him, if you think about it, that's for him protecting Spider-Man. Like, he wants Spider-Man. He loves Spider-Man. He wants Spider-Man back. What he doesn't want is the other films to damage the Spider-Man brand that they've built. Because at the end of the day, Spider-Man, in everybody's eyes, is
face of
Marvel's character, and he's in their films, and they want him to take the franchises forward, as being the main guy. They've shown that in the last couple of films, and what they need to make sure is when he goes into the other films, which he will do, that they're not inferior products, because that reflects bad. Because ultimately, you'll always get the same thing. People will walk into a film that Tom Holland's in, that he's in a Spider-Man costume, and think Marvel Studios made it. It doesn't matter what it is or who it is. They'll think Venom is a Marvel Studios film. They'll think Morbius they'll think all of them were made by. It's got Marvel's name on the top. It just says it says Marvel, so people will think straight away it's a Marvel film, and he's got to make sure that it's steered in the right direction. You know what I mean? It's got to be, even if he hasn't got control of it. So he's always going to be on the end of the phone to make sure that he can steer it in the right direction.
And I honestly think the way forward for probably Sony and Marvel at this point is Tom Holland. It's going to be some version of Miles Morales, like getting him into live action, and I'd imagine Gwen Stacy as Ghost Spider. I mean, we've seen how popular those characters were into the Spider-Verse. So I imagine for them that it's almost like a test, and basically said, "Oh, people love these. You know what I mean? This movie did gangbusters. People love the characters.
Yeah,
let's try and work them into live action." I think that's kind of the future, like younger characters, kind of bringing them in.
Yeah.
I think if they do anything with Maguire, it'd be more of a cameo.
I think it'd be a massive mistake to bring Tobey Maguire back, because I'm not saying, I know he could come back for a cameo, but I just don't think there's an appetite for that film. He really cares about. The only way you can do it, right? The only way you could do it is genuinely.
I was going to say I've got a theory on that one.
Okay,
I think I know where you're going.
But we might be different. The only way they can do it genuinely is if there's a real swell of applause for him, basically. Yeah. If people really like Tobey Maguire in the film, if he has that much in the new Spider-Man film, that much time in it, and then you almost see him go back to his Spider universe, part of Spider universe, sorry, and people are like, "Oh, I want to see more of what happens to him," or he comes through and it's like something's happened in the space between Spider-Man 3 and this, and it's like, "Oh, we have to see what happens." But we know it's another universe because we get that. Yeah. And that's the only way I can see him doing it, really. But go on.
I was going to say, I could just imagine him kind of trying to adapt the whole Into the Spider-Verse as far as like, utilizing him as a plot point, bringing him back to essentially kill him off for dramatic effect, as, you know, for a Miles Morales. And like, that's Miles. So you keep that universe, like you said, like where Tobey Maguire resides, but then you're using it like a Miles Morales instead. Because that's the thing as well. Like now, like, is there some sort of deal between Marvel and Sony where they're basically saying, like, listen, you take Tom and we'll take Miles, or like some kind of swap here and there? I mean, we'll have to wait and see.
This is what we're talking about. It's saying, like, this is the problem. It's like, it's already complicated enough, and it's all going to end up on Netflix. It's just, I know, like, you know, Terry Shaw says business is different world concerning movie. It's all about how much coin you can make eventually. No, I absolutely agree with that. But the point is, that's why I thought Disney would want to keep hold of Spider-Man, and by getting them on Disney Plus, you've basically done half the legwork, haven't you? You've basically done half the work, because at the end of the day, you can put it out on the cinema and it'll make loads of money for 13 weeks. But then if it lives on your streaming platform for the rest of the time, then you're reaping the benefits of that. And if you're putting money into that film in the first place, which the Disney sharing deal already says it is with Spider-Man, then you're not reaping the benefits of the streaming. And that's what I was saying about. That's why I find it really weird. They'll reap the benefits for 13 weeks and then it's gone. Who's buying Blu-rays anymore? You know, when it's on a streaming site as big as Netflix. Yes, they get all the merchandise, they get all the toys, they get all the cuddlies, they get Spider-Man in the theme park in Disneyland, and in LA and in Paris and wherever else, but they're not getting anything after it's been on in the cinemas, and that's why I find it really strange. You're only getting that blitz at the beginning, and you'd want it to live on your streaming site, and that's why I find it really strange that Disney have, not saying allowed this to happen, but haven't gone in harder on it, especially when now. Especially with the fact that in basically the rest of the world, we've got all the movies of Fox just sitting there, and you've got it on Hulu, and eventually you'd imagine it'd get incorporated into one anyway. I just find that a really strange decision that Disney, they've already gone in, with 1 foot. You might as well put the other one in and get.
Well, I was going to say, here's a theory about this, and it could just. It's a really boring theory. It's not exciting at all. But could it just be a simple financial situation of the fact that, like, listen, we're not long after launching Disney Plus. We're not long after acquiring Fox.
Yeah.
We're only just coming out of a pandemic. We don't feel like we have the funding to go out and buy it just yet. But like maybe they've got their eyes set on it.
How long is it? How long's the deal?
I think it's 2 years, but I mean, I haven't read too much into like the specifics of it, but
maybe they'll get involved.
Only 2 years.
Couple of trailers from Disney this week. We got Marvel trailers, that is. So we got Black Widow trailer, basically confirming, you know, the date, putting it out there that was coming out 9th of July. And yeah, good trailer. Obviously, part of it is recapping what has happened to her in the MCU so far, and obviously we sort of the middle bit that recap is finished off with her just hanging, ready to drop on Boromir, and then we get finally like, some kind of a real backstory to her life and the fact that you know, she was brought up by this family who weren't obviously a real family, but like very much like if anyone's watched The Americans, you know, they were well, I mean that was a real family, but they were obviously Russians embedded in it looks like they were embedded in America.
Like sleeper cells.
Yeah, as a family, but they weren't really a family, and they lived as a family, and there's a lot of fallout of that, of like what was real, what wasn't real, and then the reconnecting, obviously, you know, the Ray Winston character that we hadn't seen before, who seems to be the guy behind it all, coming after the family, and there's just a lot of fighting and a lot of mad stuff going on.
Yeah, it definitely felt like one of those situations where Marvel was just trying to like, hey, don't forget, Black Widow's coming out. Here's what kind of happens. Like, just kind of giving a little refresher, because I mean, we got a couple of trailers there, like a year ago?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, I think it's kind of like everyone had just found out like the date, knowing that, you know, the movie's going to be coming on Disney Plus premiere and theaters at the same time. So yeah, it was a decent trailer, and I thought they utilized like the Avengers theme in it.
Oh,
the
Russian Avengers theme was amazing. Yeah. Absolutely amazing. But you obviously got. I was going to say you obviously got Alexei Shostakov, who's the Russian Captain America, so Captain Russia. Milena Vostoff, who was played by Rachel Weisz, who's like the mum, and Florence Pugh's playing Lorena Belova, who's going to be the next Black Widow. And obviously the conflict between those four characters, and Ray Winston playing Dreykov, who seems like he's in charge.
He actually gets a mention in the first Avengers. Loki calls him out and says Black Widow, like Dreykov's daughter or something to that effect. But then it's interesting because then when he goes to when Black Widow goes to Voromir, the Red Skull says she's parents of different people. So I think it's kind of like you said, like one of those adopted.
Yeah, it's not. They're not him. She was taken from her real parents when she was in Russia, to be put in the Black Widow program, and then obviously put with this family as a sleeper in like a sleeper cell, and then it's a little bit ambiguous whether she gets taken away from them to go back to the Red Room or or taken somewhere else, really. So looks really interesting.
Yeah, and then you've got Taskmaster as well. We saw a couple of good scenes from Taskmaster, kind of like doing his infamous mimicking move. As far as kind of like, you know, you see it with Black Panther, you see it with Hawkeye, you see it with I think you get some Black Widow moves in there as well. So and it seems like from this trailer we saw a little bit more about that he seems to be under some sort of Winter Soldier type hypnosis.
Yeah, definitely, because it looks like he's it's obviously he's been manipulated, and we don't know who that really is, and yeah, it looks really good, and it'll be just really interesting to see where where that takes us, essentially in the MCU.
I'll be excited to finally watch this after what feels like a year and 3 months. I think it's been.
Yeah,
I think it was supposed to come out in like March last year or something like that. So, yeah. Well overdue. Well overdue. Yeah, I'm curious to see if they've changed any of the like post-credit scenes. You know what I mean? Because of the reordering of like the MCU, like this was supposed to be
maybe
post Endgame.
Maybe, yeah, because it's supposed to be coming straight after. Maybe, we'll have to wait. If it is, it is. It's just one of those things. And we obviously got a Loki trailer, which fills in a lot of the blanks. Gives us the date it comes out, 11th of June, isn't it?
Yeah.
And really sort of fills in the blanks of what's happening in this show. So basically,
absolutely,
he gets caught straight after he takes the Tesseract in the alternative timeline after the Battle of New York, after an Endgame. He goes to the time variance, and they tell him that he's basically messed up time, and only he can sort of fix it. And he's a Loki variant, and he's the only one who can fix it. And basically, then you see him basically running around time trying to sort out these other variants, put them basically all back in their boxes, and restore time to what it should be. Bad looks of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see that bit on the TV, right, where like it kind of looks very like that scene in Endgame on the rooftop of the sanctum of Doctor Strange's mentor, like where the thing's kind of starting to like fray out. So really interesting, and I'm curious to see how many different Loki variants we're actually going to be able to see in this, but it looks exciting, man. Like this one kind of gives me WandaVision vibes as far as like the potential of what it could do and where it could lead and different things it could touch upon. And because I think we got another historical nod in this trailer, if I remember rightly, and I can't remember exactly which, because we got the money heist one in the plane.
We got DB Cooper.
There was another one.
We got DB Cooper. There's a nod to Pompeii in it as well.
That's the one. Pompeii.
We get Pompeii. Yeah. And there's also footage of when it was getting filmed, like a still of 1970s New York. There's different things that looks like there might be a version of time with the Avengers not winning the Battle of New York and New York falls, or maybe that nuclear bomb hits rather than Tony Stark taking it into space. So there's obviously it's different timelines are going to be affected by what he's done and different outcomes, and you see the President Loki, and so it just looks really interesting. As he says, he needs his low-key perspective on it, because he is basically he's chasing down other Lokis. He's chasing down the other versions, and it's going to lead to a lot of hijinks, because we're just going to get multiple Lokis. And again, I like that idea of maybe a few mysteries in time that are like him, so the DB Cooper things and things like that would have never been explained are basically Lokis.
I was gonna say you could almost use this series as kind of like a what if, essentially like exploring the different timelines of like what if this didn't go right, kind of, and exploring that like kind of in there. So I'm curious to see how out there they go.
Yeah, you can. I suppose the only issue with that is, you'd have to keep it on the fringes of the MCU, because you couldn't simply involve that many actors in it. So you'd have to keep it really on the fringes. But that's fine. I'm not bothered about anyone else from the MCU. It'd be nice to get maybe a couple of cameos here or there, but we're all here for Loki, aren't we? And we want as many versions of Loki as we can get the fulfillment, and hopefully as well. I suppose the idea of it would be is that through it, we get some version of the Loki that we left in Endgame. Basically, before Endgame, sorry, wasn't it? We get that version of Loki that isn't a dick, basically, and
a lovable mischief.
Yeah, and listen, I know in the original Avengers, he was partly under the spell as well of of the Loki pokey stick. So that partly manipulated and made him more evil than he was. So hopefully this brings him quite close to the point he was, at the end of Ragnarok, essentially, where he's, one of the lads.
Well, yeah, and that's just it, because I don't think Marvel really wants to get rid of him.
No.
Because they know he's just such a successful character.
Well, he's
people absolutely love him.
Yeah, and apparently he's in the new Thor film as well, so it'd be good to get that reunion, because obviously Thor thinks he's dead. He's got no idea. He thinks as far as he's concerned, he's dead. He died on the ship. And Thanos throttled him to death. So as far as he knows, so it'd be brilliant if he does turn up in that, and just to see what happens. And obviously the relationship Thor will have with him will be completely different from the relationship Loki has with him, unless at some point in that film, in the show, he's shown what happened to him, because obviously they would know what happened to him.
Yeah.
So I would imagine. I mean, it's time, so surely they will. But so that'd be really interesting if he's shown what happens to the real version of Loki. And that might be really sobering for him. Maybe he's being a bit of a dick, and he needs to sort of shake him out of what will happen if he almost like the Wonderful Life scenario. If you continue down this route,
if you don't change your ways,
this is what happens to you. You basically or whatever. So, or if you change your way, if you do change your way and you're good, or you can be someone that's loved by people. No, I think everyone's just looking forward to this, aren't they? I think this is the one that really everyone's looking for, and got a bit of a wait, haven't we? Because obviously we've only got 3 Winter Soldiers left. So in effect, that Winter Soldier will be over in 2 weeks, and then we've got the whole of back end of April, whole of May, first week of June, and then we get it, and we've got nothing in between. It seems strange, doesn't it? We've got nothing in between it. We've had so far this year, after having nothing, we've had
sitting there scratching I need more Marvel.
I know, it's gonna be difficult times. Yeah, with jonesing for me Marvel.
But that's just it. We've kind of been spoiled up until this point. A Marvel episode every week.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of the year. So, I thought for sure they would have moved Loki back, given that they finally nailed down a date for Black Widow, because it kind of would have again given them some space here and there. But maybe they just felt like they needed more time to kind of get some of the footage down. You know what I mean? Rendering the special effects and things like that. Could well be.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see. Go on. What else have we got then? What else? Trailers. Couple of more trailers came out this week, didn't
they? We got a Space Jam trailer.
Yeah. I don't know.
Coming on HBO Max.
I don't know how I feel about this. The original Space Jam was it was a thing, wasn't it? It came out in '97. I'll tell you one thing. It had an amazing soundtrack. I had the tape, and it was amazing. I literally wore that tape out in my car. So good. Driving around.
I was going to say you saw
the at the south end of Liverpool with a car full of honeys playing Space Jam.
You saw Michael Jordan's The Last Dance, didn't you?
Yeah.
That the section for anyone who doesn't Michael Jordan did this whole documentary The Last Dance. It was it's basically kind of documents it's
his last season. It's his last season.
It's his last season, but pairs with how his career went.
Yeah.
But they show the point when he's filming Space Jam.
It's amazing.
And he basically just did the movie, but then every time the movie wasn't filming, he asked all his NBA friends to come down because he was getting ready for the season, and he had this court built, and they were just constantly scrimmaging and playing games and stuff like that. I was like, that is madness. Yeah, he was just I'll shoot whenever. Just let me play basketball.
I think basically he was supposed to retire. I think.
Yeah.
He didn't, and he was like, right, if we're gonna do this, I need to train. He got them to build them an absolute amazing arena on this. Yeah. And this is where Michael Jordan was he was the biggest star in the world in any field, sports, movies, anything.
All over the world.
Pre-internet, any knobhead can become famous. This fella was just absolute the biggest thing in the world.
Oh, everyone knew the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah,
Michael
and
Jordan.
you know his Jordan Nike range and everything. It was amazing. People just walk around who'd never seen a basketball game, you know, in their lives, walking around with Jordan gear on. He was huge, and he basically built an arena, as Aaron just said there. He'd film, because he said like his energy was just nuts. He'd like film all day and then play and then film and then play. And yeah, as you said there, he'd get the most ridiculous... Like, the games were, like, bigger than All-Star games. He had the best talent in the world there. And also, like, celebrities playing in these games. And I think he actually says in it, they were the best games he ever played in. The most competitive games. The best players in the world playing each other every single day. It was, like, an honour to be there as well. Like,
because that's the thing. It was, like, without politics. It was without red tape. It was just literally a pickup game. And just guys getting together and just divvying up teams however they wanted to play. Yeah, it's the truest form of the game.
It was like a computer game. It was like a computer game. It was like the best players ever to play. And like that was the best. I know, like people will be biased, different generations, but that was such an amazing generation of NBA stars. And it was like, and he shows it. So he made the film, obviously, and some of the stars ended up in the film and that. And it was like, listen, Michael Jordan, it was fine. He had some loads of decent cameos. Bill Murray was brilliant in it. Like Wayne Knight was brilliant from Jurassic Park. And it was like,
and yet he beat the Monsters with that team. And you've got, you know, King James coming along trying to get Gandalf and the Iron Giant.
Well, yeah, and then so basically, obviously, it's LeBron James, obviously biggest star of basketball going. And it's slightly a different concept, because the concept in that was these aliens had come down from obviously space. Had robbed the talent of all the best basketball players and were like, it's gonna take on this team which was made out of the Looney Tunes. They get Jordan to play, blah blah blah. Whereas in this, LeBron James gets sucked into this Warner Brothers world where there's, in the trailer, you see all these worlds. So there's like a world for like Game of Thrones, and a world for basically all of the properties of Warner Brothers. It's so on the nose, it's unbelievable. But when you're watching the trailer, so obviously it's the same thing. He goes down, he's got to take on this team of monsters or aliens, whatever.
Because I was going to say, they've got his son, right?
Yeah, they've got his son.
The only way you can get his son back is play this game.
So he's got to play this game. Goes down to the Looney Tunes planet. But in the trailer's just incredible, because it is like, if anyone's seen like Ready Player One, the amount of like things in that film, Easter eggs, properties, it's like this. Every Warner Brother property, and there's nothing off limits. So like the gang from Clockwork Orange are in it. Like, what the hell is that about?
Kong's in it.
Mama Fratelli from the Goonies is in it. Loads of iterations of Batman villains. There's all kinds. Honestly, there's all Yogi Bear, the Flintstones, Captain Caveman, Scooby Doo.
I was gonna say, you see one of the dragons from Game of Thrones.
Yeah. It's got everything, and it's like on one side of the court is all the bad characters, and on one side is all the good characters. It's absolutely nuts. The character. Now, I mean, listen, it's gonna play out like any film like this for kids, but it's just so mad. It's so mad that they've it's like essentially a kids film, but like, to have like Clockwork Orange and like even Game of Thrones, the stuff that goes on in Game of Thrones. When you think about it, like
the very first episode, when the whole window thing at the end, and
it's like it's got incest, it's got all kinds in it, and yet it's like throw it in a kids film. It's got a dragon, they'll be all right. It's nuts.
It's just a cameo.
Yeah.
It's mad. Do you know, I out of curiosity, like, I've tried to get my kids to watch the original Space Jam, and they're just like not interested.
You're a terrible parent. Just make them, sit them down, tie them to a chair.
But I can't make them like it. But like, I think for
them,
it's
make them
like
watch it.
They watched the quality of the animation, and I think they were just like, you know what I mean? And
kids,
like, I showed them the trailer for this, and they were like, "Oh, we've got to watch this," and I'm like,
Isn't that bizarre though? Because we grew up watching like Tom and Jerry and stuff like that, which was made in like the 50s and 60s. The Flintstones, Captain Caveman, things that were made, the Jetsons, things that were made in like the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. And that just shows you the way how, like, I often me and my missus often talk about this. Is like when we were growing up, we'd see things from like in the mid 80s that were from the 60s. And the 50s, so the 60s was 20 years before, and the 50s was 30 years before. And we'd look at them and be like, "What the hell is that?" And yet now, if we go back 20 years, it's 2001, and if we go back 30 years, it's 1991. And you're like, you know what I mean? It just seems so. What I mean by, at least if you go back 20 years, it doesn't seem that long ago. I know it's like wasn't really the internet age, as such, and like smartphones, but it still feels very much now. So like, you know, so we were watching, so it's mad that your kids would watch something from 1997 and be like, what is this crap? Whereas we'd watch stuff from the 50s and just be like, yeah, Tom and Jerry, it's a cat and a mouse. I mean, it's Speedy Gonzales, or it's, you know, Wally Coyote, whatever. Just like, it's mad, isn't it? It's mad.
Watching Bugs Bunny and being like, yeah, it's a good cartoon, you know what I mean? But I think that's the difference. Like,
I preferred watching the female Bugs Bunny,
Lola. I think it's one of those things though. Like, we didn't have a lot of choice.
No.
So when something was on your screen, you were like, "Oh, gimme, I want cartoons." But like this generation, they've literally
this generation
of spoiled brats. They've literally got everything at their fingertips. Yeah. Like. They have so much choice constantly. I mean, again, like if you wanted Transformers, you had to make sure you got home from school and you were there and you were, I've got this TV reserved at 4 o'clock for Transformers so I can watch it.
How dare this generation order from Amazon and get it the next day? Oh no, that's me, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, they can watch a whole season of like whatever, they can watch a whole series of shows. It's crazy, but yeah, so... My trials and tribulations as an aging parent.
I know what I think the main problem is. Your kids are being brought up on peanut and jelly, and it's rotted the brains. Essentially, it's rotted their brains. I think that's where you've gone wrong as a parent. Yeah, listen, it looks fine. I'm more interested in like just spotting all the little cameos in it. Yeah, whatever.
And that's the thing as well. Like LeBron James is well connected. He's actually been in a few things. He's quite funny. But I imagine there's probably some good cameos in this. Yeah. And I think I've got to imagine the soundtrack's going to be pretty decent.
Soundtrack better be good because the last one was amazing. Don't get R. Kelly to sing the main song. Don't do that. But
could be a little touchy.
Could be. Well, don't mention R. Kelly and being touchy. No, don't do that. Yeah, let's move on.
All right.
What else?
Though. There was a trailer, let's do something fun. Ghostbusters. Something jumped out this week. It was just a very small scene with Paul Rudd going to the grocery store and looking through a few things.
At first, you know what? I watched this the other day on my phone. I was like, this is brilliant. And then I watched it again. And then when I watched it again, I had a little theory. And then the main trailer from last year was on straight after, and that basically just destroyed my theory in one quick go. So I was thinking, oh, I wonder if this, like, so like, you know, in the original Ghostbusters where you get like you get the scene in the library and the woman shushing them, and then she turns around as a ghost and they're all scared, and that's how it starts. I was thinking this is how the movie started. Paul Rudd going into a supermarket. Okay. Suddenly, the little Stay Puft Marshmallow Men jump out at him, and that's what kicks it off. But then when I watch the main trailer, it doesn't. It feels like the mystery is probably not given away for the first maybe 15, 20 minutes of the film. You know, seeing it where he's like saying, this whole town is shaking, and it's not on tectonic plates, or it's not on a train line, and blah blah blah. And no one knows. So I get the feeling that that's probably a little bit that, and the kids are like, they're like, who are you kids? And they're like, who's your granddad and all this kind of thing. So I get the feeling that might have been, but I just think it was really, really good that they just give us that little thing, because what was freaky was, what was freaky about that was the thing it reminded me of most was Sausage Party.
Oh God!
And exactly. So I was thinking, like, if anyone's watched Sausage Parties, like that's what, like, my mind suddenly jumped, and I was like, oh, what are these Stay Puft Marshmallow getting up to here? Like, if they get up to half the things that happen in that, let's certainly the end bit of Sausage Party, which has got to be one of the most randomly disgusting cinema moments ever, even though it's in animation. It is ridiculously disgusting, but really funny. That's all I could think of, Sausage Party.
I was just surprised, you know what I mean? It really caught me off guard because, you know, showing a little scene and you know, knowing the movie's coming out not that far away, but like having like this like marshmallow bag, everyone's kind of like that whole nostalgic feeling, like, oh, is it going to be something that, like, and you know, you think it's going to be something scary that comes out, and it's this little like adorable, cute little, you know, marshmallow baby. Yeah, no, it was just a really funny. I actually thought when I saw this, I was like, this is going to be a commercial.
Yeah,
I was like, it's absolutely a commercial for marshmallows, and I thought that's what they were using it for. But no, it was an actual like little snippet of a teaser trailer.
Now, when you were a kid, did you think Stay Puft Marshmallows were a real brand? Because I did for years. Like growing up in the UK, and obviously not being getting like the American sweets and stuff. And we didn't get. I thought Stay Puft Marshmallow Mans were a real thing for years and years and years. So like it was just like, I thought that was like an emblem of something that we just didn't get over here, and it was like literally blew my mind. It's like no, that was an invention for like because you think you're like, is it if this major brand are gonna let their big icon turn evil and then blow up over people? Like, when you think of that like that, when you get to the crude realism of being an adult, you're like, yeah, most brands probably wouldn't allow their brand to go insanely mental on people in New York. But
squishing them with sugary goodness.
Exactly, yeah. Like, yeah, take that, you are now obese, ha ha ha. You over there, you've now got type B diabetes, ha ha ha. That's what I bring you as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. You over there, you will get heart disease very, very slowly, but you keep absorbing those sugars into your heart, my friend, and I will get you. I will get you in the end.
I play the long game.
I certainly do. I will make you eat my marshmallow goodness for a long time. I don't want to kill you all in one go. I want you to absorb.
Wrong. That sounded so wrong.
Absorb my sweet marshmallow length.
He keeps going.
Don't just bite the tip. Take the whole thing.
This is taking a
Sausage
turn.
Party all over again.
This is taking a turn.
Yeah, looks awesome. I really can't, because I watched the full trailer after it, and it just got me really excited because that movie looks brilliant. It looks so good.
Do you know what it reminds me of? The day Paul Rudd was announced as being in Ghostbusters.
I thought you were saying the day we caught the train then. I thought you were going full ocean colour scene. I was like, 2007. It continues.
No, when Paul Rudd announced he was going to be featured in Ghostbusters, and he walked out to New York, he walked down to the firehouse, and he was just like, I can't wait to be covered in sticky goo. He's like, I feel it all over my I was just like, what? Just absolutely Paul Rudd. Like, the man is insane. And I'm so excited he's in this one. He's a nutter.
Yeah, he's
so funny.
Did you hear that story this week? Bill Murray saying he basically got conned into being in Ghostbusters 2. It was like,
well, I was going to say, was that was on the movies that made us, right, with Ghostbusters?
Was it on there? Yeah, I can't remember.
Well, because I remember they were talking about on that documentary as well, where they're saying like they had to film like 2/3 of the movie. They had to like duplicate the scenes because they didn't have the rights to the name.
That was the first one. That was the first one. Yeah.
Yeah.
It had to be called like Ghost Hunters, didn't it? But no, it's just like saying he just basically turned up thinking he was gonna.
Like the last.
No, that was for the first one, yeah. But for the second one, he turned up thinking the whole idea was different, and when they got there, it was like, no, this is what we're doing, and he was like, this is not what we signed up for. This is crap. And they were like, well, you've signed up for it. You're in it now, mate. Unlucky. So thankfully he did.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of creative differences, and Bill Murray pulled away from a lot of the original cast after that. Like,
yeah, it's why he didn't want to ever make a third one, isn't it? Really, and yeah. So, but this looks good for a new generation. That
can't wait. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, can't wait. Was there one more trailer?
There was a couple, but
okay,
we'll move on to the better one. There was a trailer this week for Those Who Wish Me Dead, going to be coming out on HBO Max.
That is actually going to be the title of my autobiography. And it's
very apt.
And it's gonna have a whole chapter about marshmallows in it. That's about them chasing me at night, wanting to kill me.
With the chasing around with a pointed tip.
As long as it's just a tip. I had not heard anything about this film. I did not know anything about this film. I watched the trailer directly from our Twitter feed, and I was pleasantly surprised. Because what was weird is, at first, I did not realise it was Thingo.
Angelina Jolie.
I can't even remember the name. That's how much I didn't think it was her. I thought it was someone else. No, I at first didn't think it was Angelina Jolie, and I'm putting that down to the fact that I think she looks like, I think she may have got in really, really good shape for the Eternals, and that's why she looks slightly different. No, this looks really good, and it's set in like a watchtower. She's like a fire watch tower person who obviously is holding regrets. It's one of those films where something's happened in the past that she, like Sylvester Stallone.
I'm a troubled person.
Well, like
demons.
like Sylvester Stallone in like Cliffhanger when he couldn't save his best mate's girlfriend, and those regrets are there forever. She's got regrets because she could have saved people and she didn't, and she told them the wind was blowing one way, it wasn't, it was blowing another way, and they all burned to death. And that's all on you, Angelina. I'm afraid that's all on you. You have to live with that for the rest of your life unless you do something really good, a really good deed to wipe that out.
Sounds like a movie.
It does sound like a movie. And basically that's the whole premise. Is she finds this kid who's covered in blood. It's not his blood, and he tells her the story of someone was trying to kill his dad for some reason. The dad give the kid some notes with something on. I don't know, Super Ted's magic word, I'd imagine it would be. And she has to protect them from these serious looking hitmen, who are bad, look like real bad dudes who want to get him. And it looks really, really good. In the trailer you see they set a fire, and that adds to the, that adds to the whole backdrop of trying to get away from these men. It just looks really cool. And I haven't played the game Firewatch a couple of years ago, a game I really, really love. It's just a really chilled out game about this guy who has to who's basically trying to escape his troubles for a summer by living in a Firewatch tower, essentially. And something happens, and it's not like as exciting as this, but just as these little parts, it's like straight away. I've seen a few people like, it's like reminds me of Firewatch. I mean, it doesn't. It's just because they've got a big tower in them. Because we're not used to seeing them in the UK, we think everything then is like, what bad things must happen because there's a fire and there's a tower. But the story looks really good.
It looks. I was like you said, I was surprised by it. I hadn't heard anything about this kind of leading up to it, so it was a genuine surprise, kind of watching it and thinking, this looks really decent, and I think it's coming out mid-May, something like that. So it's going to be another one that's going to be HBO Max and in cinemas at the same time. But I mean, HBO Max seems to be doing a pretty decent job with some of these films that have come out. I know with some of the big ones, when they first announced the slate as far as like what would be coming to the streaming platform, it's like, you pick out the big ones and the rest you kind of like, I have no idea what these are.
Yeah.
But some of those ones that have come out since then have still been just as good as the bigger titles. Like you've got Judas and the Black Messiah. There was the other one that I talked about on the podcast with I've just blanked on everyone's names, but it was like the detective drama one. And some of these films have been pretty solid so far, and it seems like it has been encouraging people to go to the cinemas as well. So I think Kong versus Godzilla's broken the pandemic box office record so far.
Yeah.
Which isn't obviously very high.
I'm not, like, I don't know the quality of this film. I don't know. I suppose the problem is that we're so used now to cinema films being such big blockbusters now that we're almost being conditioned, saying in the last year, we've almost been conditioned that these kind of films are streaming type films, and I hope they're not.
Yeah.
I hope that there's still room for those kind of films to be on the cinema, and they're not pushed out of cinemas because people will go, you might as well just throw this on us. And that's always been my fear. And I've stressed this loads of times. That's always been my fear about this situation, is that once you settle for something, you never get away from it. I think that's a general fear about the pandemic, is like, are people ever going to go back to work? Are they going to be conditioned to live at working? Are stores going to be, left high and dry because everyone's used to going on Amazon's website and ordering off from Amazon and online stuff? And there's always that thing of having that worry. So I hope this is a cinema quality film. I hope this is not a film where they take the easy option and go, I mean, I know there's not really much room because of the time it comes out, but it would be. I think this was planned in 2019, and I think at the time it was definitely seen as a cinema film because it was a book. It's got Angelina Jolie in it. The cast looks really good. John Benthnal's in it as well. The cast does look really good. So I hope it is a cinema quality film because it does. The premise looks really good. It looks almost like looks almost like, I'm trying to think of the author from like the 1990s. Who was it? The guy who did the Pelican Brief. John Grisham. Feels like a John Grisham film. Feels like a John Grisham film. In that kind of way, a bit more actiony, but just a bit of a the plot with whoever the father is and whatever information he has feels like that kind of John Grisham kind of film. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It looks good. It looks really good. So I'm looking forward to that. What was the other trailer you mentioned? Just quickly.
I was going to say there was two other things just very quickly. There was a Mortal Kombat featurette, and they were basically just talking about how they're trying to, like, this movie's more than just a video game. Like, there's actual stories and mythos, and there's plot points like behind the characters, and they've tried to make it as honest and diverse as possible, given all majority of the characters are Asian based and things like that.
They say that. You know what they say that about as well? Porn. Yeah, I mean, listen, Mortal Kombat will be Mortal Kombat, won't it?
Yeah,
it will be.
I was gonna say it's everyone. It's kind of like Kong versus Godzilla. You know going in what you're gonna get with it.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of hoping to have a little bit of surprise with it as well with the story, and I hope the fight scenes are good. So I mean, but like I said, you know what you're going in for when you're going for Mortal Kombat.
I hope they bring back.
You're going for blood and gore and fights.
I hope they bring back the original song as well, where it's like Mortal Kombat, like that. I hope they do that.
It was a good tune.
Yeah. And what else?
People's earphones are just being like.
Okay. Sorry, apologize.
There was also another trailer this week for Jupiter's Legacy on Netflix.
Yeah, that looks weird. I mean, it does look. It looks like a straight. It looks like The Boys, but like a straight version of The Boys. Do you know what I mean?
I've not quite figured out where I sit on it, to be honest. And I'm kind of want to like waiting to see the first episode or two just to see what it's like. But I wasn't completely sold on the trailer.
No,
like some of it looks alright, but then some of it looked really cheesy.
Yeah, it looks like
I was just like
almost like a family drama wrapped in as in but like a comic book show.
Yeah, and it's made by Mark Miller, who's a comic book author who signed exclusively with Netflix to make a whole bunch of different things.
He did. Mark Miller's done loads of Marvel, loads of DC, but he did Kick-Ass as well, didn't he? So, and now he's exclusive to Netflix. So, good for him.
I was going to say maybe it's one of those things that surprises us when we go in, but trailer was kind of hit and miss, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a bit out there, wasn't it?
But that was the news and the trailers of the week.
There you go. So we've got a couple more bits to talk about really. So we had the second episode of the Mighty Ducks Game Changers, another wonderful little nice episode of Disney fluff and nostalgia.
It's just one of those things that I just inject it into my eyeballs and instant happiness. Like, it's just such a funny, weird show. Like, I think the kid who plays the podcaster he's going to be a massive star. He's funny as hell. Like, when the bit where they go and play the game and he says to the keeper and he was just like, yeah, I was thinking about when I was playing my game and I
keep
pressing left up right next, and he's like, oh right, okay, yeah, that's not how this works.
This kid keeps on pressing the button. Kid keeps on pressing the button. I know. I was screaming at the telly, make a save.
It's like watching Everton.
Yeah, it was like, make a save, you dope. No, it's good. It's good. It's a good. You can't really break it down. I just wanted to bring it up because it's a good little show. That's worth watching. It's got that nice nostalgic feel about it, and it's worth giving it a go if you're looking for something to watch with the kids.
Yeah, I was just saying. I feel like we hit the end of the episode there where we got that like inspirational moments, like they, the West lost, and they're like, all right, everyone, like it's time for a montage moment.
Yeah,
we've got to get the montage music out. And I tell you what, though, one thing is Emilio Estevez. I mean, he steals scenes, man.
Yeah,
he's funny as hell.
Yeah, it's the best. Obviously, he's the best thing in it, and obviously, you're seeing him getting the little that when he was playing hockey and sort of getting the little feels for it. So this week, he's gonna like start getting involved with the team.
I was gonna say I want to see him do his move. He does the triple D.
The triple D. And once that happens, there'll be nothing down for the other Ducks. Yeah. So we're
rising champions.
No, they won't win it. The crap. Yeah, check that out if you haven't already. Let's talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier to wrap the episode up. Best episode so far. Really moved the story on. Obviously, the Zemo stuff was fantastic. The Sharon Carter stuff was fantastic. We started to get a real feel for who everyone was. The mystery started to unravel a little bit. Friends become enemies, enemies become friends. And the
journey brings us all closer.
Brings us all closer to Wakanda. It was a really, really, really good episode with lots of good action, but a little bit of everything, and the fight scenes were just, you can tell that the guy who wrote this episode made John Wick, because the fight scenes were incredible.
Oh yeah, well I was going to say one of the things I really liked is the way they worked some of the music in as well.
Yeah,
like when you first see Zemo, you've got that like Civil War music like creeping in. And then when you see like when Bucky goes into like Winter Soldier mode and just starts kicking ass from Madripoor, you get the Winter Soldier. Yeah, you get that Winter Soldier music creeping in. And that fight scene right there, like so good. Like you felt like that super soldier power like coming out of him when he's like throwing people around the room. But it's just like, oh.
It started weird, didn't it, with the whole trailer for like the organization that like
Yeah. It kind of felt jammed in there, that bit. Like it was an odd.
Did you think?
I don't know if it was kind of.
Okay, I thought it was. I thought it was like it was just setting up. It was setting up. The new Captain America sort of. The fact that we got the trailer of like we're basically sorting out the lives of everyone who came back. And it felt a little bit sinister, to be honest. And then we seen the van in Germany.
That's a good point.
And it was a police van, but it also had their logo on it. And then out gets Captain America, and it's like
it's kind of like the media image, like, hey, we're here to help people, but then the realistic images.
Yeah, it went from being like we'll rehouse you, don't worry, and then it went from that very quickly to gunboats on the English Channel. You know what I mean? It was like dead quick. It was like, no, this is the real face of that organization. The real face of that organization is going after essentially refugees of the blip, because that's what they are. The refugees of the blip, aren't they? The people who have been displaced by the blip. Their lives have been taken over, whether it's the people they were with have moved on, the houses they lived in are owned by somebody else now, the jobs that they have. I mean, you got to think about it, like, half the world was gone for 5 years, and after 5 years you're thinking they're never coming back. People have to move on. And it's not, it's not. If you think about the real complications of that, if the double the population of the world suddenly turned up, what are you going to do with them? It would just be an absolute mess. So the fact that Captain America, or this version of Captain America, was going after the Flag Smashers and going after the German guy, and like straight away starting to see that he's starting to get frustrated. People are not giving him any respect.
Yeah.
They don't like him. They're not interested in him. They're not interested in this new Captain America.
He's very becoming unhinged.
Yeah, he's coming. He's massively frustrated. You could see that, and I still think he will get that super soldier serum in the next couple of weeks, and he's gonna be a massive dick, but also really, really, I think what you've seen this week is that him getting, even though we only seen him for a little bit, him looking like he was frustrated that he can't live up to who Captain America is. He just simply can't live up to it. So therefore, he's going to get more and more frustrated, and that anger is going to pour out, and that's what we're going to get when he gets the super serum.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because I kind of really like the contrast between like that organization and Captain, the new Captain America. Like when you kind of like parallel them with the supposed bad guys of like, the Flag Smashers, when really all they've done so far is, they're trying to get vaccinations and food to people who, these refugees who've kind of been pushed out, and like they're just trying to help people. It seems like, you know what I mean. Now, while they're kind of pushing for things that could be, obviously complicated as far as like, countries without borders and no nations and stuff like that. Like powerful figures are always going to try and put a stop to that naturally. So yeah, it's just an interesting contrast because you've got like the people with power and the people without power, and one's supposed to be the good guys and one's supposed to be the bad guys. So it's, but yeah, it's kind of interesting with that. But like you said, I think the whole Captain America thing is going to go sideways quickly. I mean, after tomorrow, we're two-thirds through the season as well.
Yeah, it won't be far from. We only have a couple of episodes left, won't we? We'll have a couple of episodes left, and then it'll be done. So, big episode. And obviously, we obviously found out more about the Flag Smashers as well. They seem, even though we only got a little bit of them, we've seen that what they're doing seems to be for the right reasons. They obviously had a leader who died in this episode. Now, I read something interesting, or watched something interesting in the week, saying that it seems like that maybe a whole part of this storyline that's been cut out, maybe surrounding a virus, because clever people had realized that there was a lot of scenes in the show where there'd been new dialogue added, and the dialogue was slightly different from the dialogue which was already being spoken. So, just slightly different, and
so like the ADR, like what they with the audio, they've gone back and added it.
Yeah. So basically, if you watch it again, there's a couple of scenes where dialogue doesn't seem to be right, and the actors have got their backs to the camera. So
it's easier to add it.
So it's been so it doesn't look out of place. Don't have to dub it, but it is there, and it's been like basically theorized that there was a whole like basically a part of the plot was that there was a virus, and that's why in the first episode we had that scene, or second episode, where we had that scene where they're taking vaccines.
Oh yeah. So, because they say like she gets like tuberculosis or something. Like that. And it's all those hot. She goes into a room like full of hospital beds as well, doesn't it? It's almost like a giant room full of like infected people.
Yeah.
So I thought that was odd. Like she was the only one there.
Yeah. So I reckon like part of it is because so there was an illness in the show that was pre-pandemic, and they've had to basically cut round it using new dialogue and just being clever with the shots, and having to basically cut round this side story. And that's why, that's why that their leader basically died, and you didn't really get anything about it. You didn't like understand why they were so upset and everything, and that was why they've basically cut this side story out, because it's like pandemic. So, but we found out more about them, and they seem to be doing things for the right reason. And clearly, they're not the bad guys in it. They're just an effect. They've just got the super soldier serum. They've used it. We found that out later on when they got the doctor. They stole it, and they've still got more of it. But they're not the bad guys. Clearly, they're just someone out there trying to do good, trying to look after the people who've been affected by the blip. But they stole it. So, but obviously we've seen later on that they blew up. They blew up a house with loads of people as well, so they're getting more desperate as well. But obviously we got the opening bit with the Zemo and Winter Soldier basically explaining how we'd get him out while it was happening was brilliant. I thought that just cut through so much time really quickly, and then Zemo to turn up in the garage, all those cars be him getting his mask, and then when they get on the jet and he's like, I'm a Baron. What did you think? Like, I'm a Baron, for fuck's sake. I thought that was brilliant. The way he's like, yeah, my family are rich, and this is like my old racist butler. Because clearly they were massively racist as well. I mean, that was very clear as well. Like, when he was like, yeah, you should, it's this, the whole album, Marvin Gaye's album, really tells the story of, and he's like, you can't really say that, but you're right. It was like, and the way they had like the little private joke about Sam, they were proper racist. Oh, mad.
Yeah, it's Baron Zemo in this episode just absolutely fantastic. And again, the fact that they kind of finally like canonized like his name is like Baron Zemo, and like they give him the whole background, even with like the jacket and everything like that, the way he walks. It was such a standout of this episode. Just kind of plays that line like
he's a brilliant character. He's a really good character. And
Daniel Broman.
And as we've seen in the actual film Civil War, he was doing things for the right reason. He was a guy who'd lost his family because the Avengers had basically killed them. I was
going to say, and we got more backstory of that this week as well, like saying that he, while he was working for the Sokovian military, like hunting down Hydra, so it's like he'd already been kind of on this track anyway. Yeah. Like, and he'd already had those associates, in Madripoor and things like that. So, kind of leading into this episode and kind of explaining that, you kind of put two and two, and you're like, okay, well, from where he was in Civil War, like, you can see how he was able to kind of like manipulate the situation and skirt around kind of like,
at the end of the day,
perception.
At the end of the day, he's a secret agent. He's a spy.
Yeah.
He's a spy at the end of the day.
Secret agent
man. Baron Secret. He's got loads of codes, covers, names, masks, wigs, undergarments, whatever he needs to be that secret agent man. And he's obviously very familiar with
the Pink Panther.
Yeah, he's obviously just like the Pink Panther. He's obviously got a good knowledge of Madripoor as well, and he obviously takes them there because that's where all roads lead. And you make Sam dress up as, wasn't he, Smiling Tiger?
Smiling
Tiger,
which is an actual Marvel character as well.
And obviously Bucky had to go back to being the Winter Soldier. They went to the bar. Sam had to drink that ridiculous snake shot, which looked awful.
It's his face the entire time.
Yeah. Winter Soldier.
You see him like wince, and he's just like
Winter Soldier being Winter Soldier was absolutely amazing though. Like getting the sound was really good as well.
Well, even when like Zemo turns around to Sam and said that wasn't that difficult, was it, for him to just switch back into Winter Soldier mode?
He's got demons, man. He's still got those demons that are always there, and like we said last week, he is a highly trained asset that people will want back. Like when they mention,
and you see that at the start of the episode when he breaks out Zemo, like how easy it was to just like overcome. Like he's such an elite level assassin, like operating just on a level above everyone else. And you don't really, apart from Winter Soldier, we haven't really seen that from him again.
No.
You know what I mean? Because Civil War, he was on the run, and he was just kind of used as a soldier in like Infinity War.
What's more dangerous, a Bucky with all the skills and a brain, or a Bucky without a brain, with all the skills, you know what I mean? I think the one with the brain is much scarier. someone who's actually in control of the situation rather than being fed orders. So, and it was just mad how like everyone knew who he was and he got all that respect. I just thought that was really interesting. So obviously we got they got the nod to go and see the person upstairs who obviously got assassinated by Sharon Carter.
Yeah. I was just going to say it was kind of like an interesting little scene, but it kind of it was an odd one because you kind of got a bit of background here and there, but it got cut short when Sam gets the phone call, and I thought that was kind of an odd thing because the phone call just kind of felt like out of place. You know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you just like not answer the phone or have his phone on
that was
silence?
pathetic.
Or...
Why would you? Why
It was just a really weird part. You know what I mean?
I genuinely hate that kind. I've seen that in a few things recently where like phones are going off, and I'm just like, even when they're on vibrate, I'm like, why would you walk into any situation? Sometimes I do. I don't like that I don't like that as a thing to like make a situation change direction. I just think it's really amateur. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like I've seen that used.
That's how it comes across. And this guy works for the military. Like, you know, he's gone under like how many operations? Like, it just seems like a thing that wouldn't be done. Like, I don't know. I thought there was a better way to handle it.
It does disappoint me, that kind of thing. I do think it's quite lazy. Like, there used to be a thing in like in like shows and films to basically get rid of phones as quickly as possible. It was like a trope where it was like, well, the phone can be the lifeline. We need to get it wet or something, you know, or oh, I've smashed my phone.
Someone stands on it,
You know, but I've seen it in a few things recently where it's like the phone's the thing that gets them into trouble, and you're just like, come on, we can be better. We can do better than that. We can do better than that. You know, like it's poor, but it's revealed that it's mad when they leave the building how quickly everyone's after them. It's like there's already a contract out for them basically straight away. And then we find out
it reminded me of Westworld season 3.
Yeah. And then we find out it's Sharon Carter and she's now on the run. I thought that, and then I thought like Sharon Carter explaining what had happened to her was really interesting. We talked about last week about like the human consequences of being left over and not being, you know, one of the big ones, not a Cap or a Tony Stark or whatever, being left over. You know, Sam having to go for a loan and not earning money, and then this week we see Sharon basically saying, "Well, you all got pardons. I never. I'm on the run. I bought you those wings. I bought Cap his shield. I got you to Germany. Like you know, there was real consequences of the actions, and now I'm basically having to live over here, use all my skills as, you know, whatever she is doing. And I thought that was really interesting. Like, again, like we said last week, this is the real world. They're not just living in a happy, shiny world where everyone thinks they're amazing and the Avengers are loved. It's like we said in that first...
There's consequences. Yeah.
But like we said in that first episode, who actually knows what's gone on? Because if you think, we as the audience know, we've seen it, but does the rest of the world really know what went on with the Avengers? Did they really know what happened in Sokovia? Did he really know what happened with in Civil War in the airport in Germany? You know, did he really know what happened at the Avengers campus when Thanos came through? Did he really know all that stuff? The answer is probably no. So therefore, you know, Sharon Carter's got no real backup. She was SHIELD, and then I think she became CIA, and now she's just, you know, in a terrible place doing terrible favors and selling stolen art.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. Like, not only just that, like, you know, did the government not pardon her, or like not have her back, but then you've got like the rest of the Avengers. Like, no one came looking for me to help me out.
Yeah. Like, I mean, to be fair, like we said, that's not really their fault because stuff went down pretty quickly. Like, things happen really, really quickly. So,
but it's kind of one of those things though as well. Like, as far as like this secret Avengers go, like, you know, Falcon and Cap and Black Widow, like, he says like, oh, we were on the run for 2 years, and she was like, so was I, but I was by myself. Yeah, like, I would have helped you. You could have come looking for me, and she basically just got abandoned and left at the side. So you can't blame her for how she feels as far as like that. Like, and I thought it was again really interesting. Like, keep highlighting this. Like, no, like not everyone's great on.
Not
this
everyone got a happy
like,
ending. In fact, hardly anyone got a happy ending. Everyone got something bad happen to them, you know. And there's only really Cap. But Cap deserved it, for God's sake. But everyone else got like bad stuff happen to them. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like Hulk's got one arm. Cap, you know, had a good life. Tony's dead. You know, Spider-Man had to deal with that trauma. You know, Thor saw his planet destroyed, his home destroyed, his brother killed, his mum had already died, his dad died, half of the population of Asgard got killed, then another half of Asgard got killed. You know, he went fat, then he had to deal with that dickhead on Fortnite. He had a bad time.
Thor got the worst of it, man.
Yeah, Thor had a bad time, man. So everyone had a bad time, and then, you know, Sam has to deal with being almost like normal again and not having the crutch of Captain America, and Bucky's dealing with what he's dealing with. It's like, you know, bad stuff.
Well, that's why I found it interesting with the Winter Soldier in this episode, because like it's almost like being the Winter Soldier is easier than actually being a person. You know what I mean? Like taking orders and just kind of like just saying, okay, do this and go do that, like fight him. And then, you know, we'll move on and let someone else worry about the bigger plans. That's easier. But being a person, like in control of your actions and like having to talk about who you've hurt and what you've done, like that's complex. Like it's difficult to and you see that with you know, with Bucky, like as he's trying to navigate that and he's just trying to do some good. And like, again, you've seen it in like the last episode with the therapist, and he's just like, you know, if Cap was wrong about you, he's wrong about me, and like kind of wrestling with those demons.
Well, Cameron says in the comments, Cameron Mystery says Shannon was snaked big time. Since Civil War was 2015 and the current time is 2023. That's 8 years on the run and not seeing a family that she had it bad. Did she get dusted? She did, didn't she? I think she did because I think she appears on the board in Avengers when it's like telling you who's disappeared.
Right at the beginning of Endgame.
But what I would say is though, she's only on the missing list, so therefore
kind of like Ant-Man.
Ant-Man was on the missing list, so she went missing, so it still leaves her up, so she could have been missing for 5 or for whatever. Someone on the comments just said there, and they said that someone said it last week, referencing my earphones, which are, yes, pink, but they are also proper DJ headphones. So I'll have no disrespect about my headphones. Exactly, they are these are professional headphones. Just because they are pink, I like colour pink. I've got no problem. It's, you know, actually it looks well on me.
You're a modern man.
I'm a modern man. I'm a very modern man. I'm a modern gentleman. Some people would say, but not many. Also, people in the comments still haven't worked out what we're talking about, and it's not in a football thing. It's just like
not talking about Everton.
Not about football. It's about nerd stuff. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. It's that simple, isn't it? I don't come to your work and go, "What are you doing? I don't like it. What are you? Why are you doing that? I don't like that. So stop doing it.
Don't do that spreadsheet like that.
Stop doing." Ricky Gervais got a brilliant thing where he's like, someone puts up a sign going something, what is it, like looking for something or whatever, and he walks in and goes, I don't, it's like he's got a flat to share, and he's like, I don't need a flat to share, I don't like that, take it down. Cameron says hope to see Bucky and Aisha Bradley flashback. Yeah, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Be amazing if we've seen it.
Yes.
But obviously we find out there is a doctor who's got the who's making the super soldier serum. They go and find him within a,
and he's perfected it as well.
He's within a like a, you know, a yard full of big metal boxes that I can't think of the name of what they're called.
Cargo,
shipping containers. Shipping containers. Yeah, that's the word. And they find him. He's got like this secret lab, secret lab man, and he basically says yes, they perfected it and they got stolen by the Flag Smashers. There's 20 out there, but that's the only ones left. I think they says they've used 8, so there's still some out there. And obviously, we've had over the whole episode, I know at the end of last week's episode, we've had the real bad guy hanging over, haven't we? The whole thing.
The power broker.
The power broker, and that's leading a lot of people now to think, who is the power broker? So he's working for the power broker. You know, this guy. He seems quite young to have been like on the program for long, but he makes out that he was part of like the Winter Soldier project as well. But he doesn't seem that old. Yeah. But yeah. And then obviously, you know, after they try and get out of him what they need, Zemo just kills him. It's just like, I'm not having this. I am not having
that. That seemed a bit sus, though. You know,
it though, because isn't that his whole thing? He basically, when he did that speech early on the plane, it was like, he basically says Captain America is the equivalent of Hitler.
Oh, that was an amazing scene.
And in a way, he's critiquing he's critiquing nationalism, isn't he? And I find nationalism really, really weird myself. I find people who are obsessed with national anthems and flags the weirdest people in the world, and I apologize if I offend anyone for that, but I do. It's a piece of cloth, and it's a song made up by some weird people, right? And if you think that singing a song about an old woman who should live forever is a way of celebrating your nation, then for me, you're nuts. And I think if you're looked at badly because you don't sing a national anthem or because you don't portray a flag, that to me is really like, that's far right culture as far as I'm concerned. So with the whole Captain America thing, I found that really interesting. He was like, well, what's the difference? Now the difference is the men themselves, the equivalent of the men. But we've seen with Cap as he went along, and actually as he left the Avengers and he went away, he basically got rid of the Stars and Stripes off his suit and was basically like, no, I'm not fighting for you. I'm fighting for...
And he like ripped the flag off the side of his arm as well. So like, he definitely felt very disassociated with his country, his government, and
and he says that and he says that by not signing the Sokovia Accords, and he's like, you know, because he's like, this is in a way fascism, isn't he? He's basically saying, I'm not doing this. We've got to hold these people to account. You can't just say that's bad and this is bad and the other thing's bad. And I just thought that was a really interesting thing. So basically, Zemo this whole thing is, I am not gonna let someone get the power that normal people don't have, because therefore they've gone under, because that's his whole thing. His whole thing is, don't let someone get an advantage, otherwise bad things will happen. And that's fair enough. I think that's what we all strive for. We don't want anyone to have it's why everyone's got nuclear bombs, so that in case, if you used to say, I'm not having a nuclear bomb, then you go, well, all the bad guys have got them, haven't you? It's like, you've got to have mutually assured destruction, essentially, haven't you? And that's what he's saying. He's saying, if we're all on the same level, then there can't be that guy that is the powerful one at the end of the day. So I think it was very much in his character. I didn't see that I thought that as bang on for who Zemo is that he doesn't want superheroes, because he looks at them in a very black and white way. Nobody should have superpowers, simple as far as he's concerned. Or, if you've developed tech or you're gonna do whatever, then that's fair enough. But no one should be modified to be better than someone else. And I thought that was, and he's supposed to be the bad guy, but that's a really rational point of view.
Yeah. So no, I just thought it came very suddenly. Kind of when he takes the shot with the scientist. So I just thought it was like he was almost starting to turn and release more information than he should. So that's why I was like,
well, that's fair enough. That's a good shout. That's a good shout. That's a good shout. No, I get that. Yeah, I mean, it was like that moment where it was like, no, you don't kill him now. But then that's not.
It could have been a useful asset to kind of like get more information out of. But then I guess wasn't that the point with the scientist anyway?
Yeah,
like,
but
he's being kind of like utilized as an asset.
Yeah, that's a narrative thing though, isn't it? That's like you don't want to give everything away. You don't want the mystery of the power broker to be released straight away. And there are a couple of comments there we're going to jump into in a moment. You had Sharon Carter outside kicking just proper ass. We've seen flashes of her in other things. Civil War, obviously, but in this, they really unleashed her, and their action had just gone up a complete notch. She is absolute hardcore, taking on all those bounty hunters, and she just destroyed all of them, and
doesn't flinch, just goes to town.
No, and it reminded me of it reminded me of the first proper MCU version of like a Daredevil corridor scene.
Oh yeah. Definitely. I'd say I was getting Black Widow vibes.
Oh yeah, but Black Widow always never felt like it never went that far, and it would no. But I'll say what I mean by this is that remember the Daredevil scenes where it was like you could see him physically getting tired, and like every opponent mate, it was just getting harder and harder for him, and I felt like that with her. It was like as it went along, and as she was starting to get more physically tired, she was having to come up with more interesting ways of putting people down. Which meant like starting to use the knives and things like that because physically she couldn't keep going doing what she was doing, and that was similar in Daredevil. It was like towards the end of the Daredevil fight, it was like drunken brawls because he had nothing left and he was just using his last bit of skill that he had to defeat them. And I felt like it was the same in this, even though she still had more control. I just felt like it was really interesting and really really good.
Yeah, no, she's absolutely kind of like elevated her fighting style and kind of like where she's gone as a character. So it was really good to see. Yeah, I mean, she did not flinch with those guys. She went to town, man. And I mean, she took out what, like 12, 14 people, and like while they're in there, and she's like, "You guys need to hurry up! Like, get the hell out of here!"
Yeah, it was brilliant. And then obviously we see Zemo then blow up. He blows up the pipe. Which basically just takes out the last of them. And then we got a really interesting scene with her. She gets into a car with another woman, and she says, "We've now got two problems." Cameron's just reminded me. Cameron has said, "Could that be referring to Sam and Bucky? She might not be fully on their side." And yeah, this is an interesting one because that led me not. Tongue-in-cheek, I was like, she's the power broker. But then I was thinking, she's not the power broker because I think the power broker will be someone really interesting and someone who, I don't know, someone who's just got loads of lines as their name on, I don't know what your name is, says, "What do you fellas think about the theory that Zola is the power broker?" So that's a really interesting one, isn't it? I don't think it will be, but I think it's really interesting. I actually put the theory out tonight that it might be Samuel Stearns from The Incredible Hulk. Again, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't think it's actually real, but it could be. But
there's actually a lot of credit to that, to be fair. You know what I mean, as far as a shout. So, but continue.
Is this one of the? See, I get the feeling that. See, like Sharon Carter, like you got to think who her auntie was for a start. Her auntie was Peggy Carter, for God's sake, right? Her auntie was Peggy Carter, who is the most stand-up. One of the most stand-up characters in the whole of the MCU. A real human, no super abilities, lost the love of her life, in Cap.
I was going to say one of the founding members of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, someone who helped create S.H.I.E.L.D. And could she be that deeply embedded within everything that's going on that she is simply a double agent? And she said, obviously, the girl she was with, I don't know who that was, obviously may work for the power broker. Or everyone might work for the power broker because the power broker's that strong. I mean, there was a thing on the wall that the power broker's watching. So he's obviously clearly very strong. And last week we had at the end when he was on the phone and, they shot the lad. So I just wondered if...
Well, I was gonna say this episode as well when Zemo says, like, listen, we want to kind of, like, avoid his attention. Like, I've never met him. We just kind of want to skate under the radar because, it's a bad thing if we, get onto his, it's, you don't want to do that. You don't want to make me mad.
But I just thought
so,
that...
like, yeah, you can definitely see he's a player. Obviously,
I just thought that maybe she's so deep undercover that she's obviously she's a double agent and she can't be found out, so she has to obviously point them to.
So I was going to say, do you think she knows from like her CIA days that if she could bring in the power broker or bring in some sort of evidence to support him being arrested for something, that it could guarantee her pardon and entry back into the US?
Either that, or that's already like she's already got that deal in place, or she's just simply still with the CIA. There's a saying: once CIA, always CIA. That's a genuine saying, and they're not going to go. I can't imagine them.
Look it up.
Can't imagine they're going to go away from that. So, we'll see. But when she says that, I think it is about Sam and Bucky, and because I think what you always find out about these, like, any drama, any cop thing or anything like that, it's like, don't kill the low level people. Let the low level people take you to the high level people. And I think maybe what she was like, we'll go and see the doctor, and the doctor will give us enough information to get us to the power broker. Because quite clearly the power broker is some real mysterious figure that no one actually knows who he is. And he could end up being Phineas Ross, maybe. But
so you can say Ross from Friends, and like
maybe it is. Maybe it's like
we're on a break.
And I think that maybe she was hoping the doctor would lead them to the power broker because obviously he'd have the super soldier serum. So and that's why she's like, oh, we've got these problems now. Or maybe it's like, maybe that girl works for the CIA. Maybe it's like, we've got these two problems because actually these are gonna push the power broker the wrong way, sort of thing. So I thought that was really interesting, and thought that was really good. I
was going to say there was a good comment here in the YouTube comments saying could be a nice tie-in that she's still working with Fury, who will be in the new coming back in the Secret Wars show.
Yeah,
that's Secret Invasion.
Yeah, definitely. Is she scheduled to be in that? Is she?
I don't.
They probably haven't revealed. To be fair, they probably haven't revealed that simply because it would give stuff away in this, I would imagine. But it's really interesting.
Yeah, especially because like if you knew she was coming back, it would kind of take the mystery out of like, well, what does that comment mean? And that's the whole point, right? Yeah. Like you said about like setting up with the drama, like dropping an ambiguous line like that in, like, is it, for good or for bad?
It works both ways, doesn't it? It works both ways.
Yeah, exactly.
It works both ways. So we'll see what happens with that. Going.
Creates tension.
Yeah, we'll see what happens going forward with that. And then obviously at the end we got the scene of Bucky finding the beads. And I'll be perfectly honest, I wasn't onto this when it first happened. Nope. I wasn't onto either.
Completely missed
it.
I
was dozy, and I didn't have all my spidey senses working. I completely did not get this at all. Where the beads, with the Wakandan beads, and that he found Ao in a back street, and basically saying that they want Zemo back, which is interesting. It's interesting.
And it had to be Bucky as well.
Yeah, well, it had to be because he's the White Wolf, isn't he? So he's fully aware of what they are. He knew straight away because he lived in Wakanda. Funny thing about the actress who plays Ao, she's actually a German actress. She starred in Deutschland 89 and Deutschland 86, which I'm currently watching. And that's probably the reason they picked her to be in it, because she was allowed, I imagine, to film because she's German. So because of COVID, they probably thought we can get her because she's allowed to be in it. And Bucky, Cameron saying Bucky was in Wakanda for 2 years, so we'd know anyway. He'd know straight away. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Zemo, because so far he hasn't really steered them wrong. He's done exactly what he promised them. He hasn't, apart from shooting the doctor, he hasn't really, which you knew he was going to do anyway. So he hasn't really done anything wrong. And it's going to be really interesting to see how far they allow him to go, because obviously Wakanda, he killed their king. He obviously went to prison. He's out to prison. They're not going to allow him to be free in the world when they murdered the king. So it's going to be interesting to see how that conflict develops between Bucky and, you know, Dajalam, you know, and AO and stuff. Whether they allow, it's like, you know, well, no, leave him out for a bit. We'll sort him out, or whether she's like, no, he's going back now. That's going to be a really interesting one.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Honestly, I think it's kind of both of us in a way should have been like, oh yeah, there's definitely an element of Black Panther or the Dora Milaje appearing in this just because of how we find Zemo and what happens with King T'Chaka. You know what I mean? It's such an obvious thing now. You look back at it and you're like, oh, of course that would have happened. Like, but like, yeah, to your point, like how they address this and kind of move it forward, because it has to have some sort of resolution there, because the Dora Milaje won't accept anything else than, you know, Zemo's been broken out.
Yeah.
We want him. So kind of like, what does that look like from there on out? But obviously it's Zemo, and he's a very, you know, highly intelligent figure. I mean, we've already seen in this episode how he manipulates the entire situation. So like, what's his end game, and you know, how does that work out? So we're adding these like layers, you know, of plot into the show, and creating all this tension. So it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of like maps out in this next episode here, because I think it has to be immediately addressed, right? AO's not going away quickly.
Yeah, and like also like it's not like she'll take it lightly, and they can just she'll give as good as she gets. I know probably, you know, push comes to shove, Bucky could beat her in a fight, but he's not going to want to beat her in a fight because he doesn't want. He's not going to want to hurt her. So it's going to be really interesting what happens with Zemo, and what his future is. Of course, we've got the idea that he's such a good character that you want to keep him around for, like, just to keep him around. Doesn't have to appear all the time. He could just pop up in if we're going to get the Thunderbolts or whatever. Do
you know? I've got to say, like, Marvel's doing a fantastic thing the last couple of years, and it's making good villains and keeping them around.
Yeah, keeping them around.
Because that was one of my main issues, was when the MCU started, and DC, did the same thing. Was just like introducing these amazing characters and then just killing them off. And that's I had issues with this in Iron Man 3 when they introduced
Killian.
Not Killian. Why can't I think of his name? The Mandarin.
Yeah,
when they introduced the Mandarin, I was like, oh, wow.
That was his name, wasn't it? Killian.
Killian was the other guy who had that like regenerative. Oh, I mean, I guess he was the Mandarin technically. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the Mandarin. Trevor Slattery was not the Mandarin. don't.
But I mean, but it was more of a facade. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it wasn't the actual Mandarin.
No, but he's still alive, because Trevor Slattery was in prison. He got the one shot, didn't we? But yeah.
So that's what I mean. Like, so I think Marvel now is like realized, like, hey, we don't have to kill off these big bad guys like straight away. Like in the same movie, it doesn't have to be that immediate like resolution where it's like bad guy introduced, by the end of the movie, bad guy dies.
Yeah,
like that doesn't always have to be the way. Like you can say, well, we'll keep him alive, we'll use him down the line.
Yeah, you don't.
And I think that's with Zemo, it was a perfect. Decision.
No, it was a good decision, and hopefully they keep him around. It'll just be interesting to see how long they keep him around, and then when we get the reveal for the Power Broker, that's going to be good. But so obviously the new episode is actually, as we're recording now, will be out in 4 hours time. So so we won't have, if you listen to this, you'll have either already watched it or you'll be about to watch it or whatever. So if you're watching it live, obviously you've only got a few hours to go. So it's going to be really, really going to be really good. Now we're going to the second half of it, and we've got the whole thing of Sharon Carter, Power Broker, Zemo, the Flag Smashers, fake Captain America, Bucky's troubles, you know, whether he tells his mate that he killed his son. There's still a lot to do in 3 episodes, so really, really looking forward to it. So there you go. That is our roundup of that episode, and hopefully we've covered everything from the episode that you wanted us to talk about. Yeah, cool. That's it. There was a brilliant, amazing piece of news tonight that the Marvel Avengers campus is opening in Disneyland on the 4th of June, which is amazing. And the main reason why it's amazing is I'm not going this year. I'm going next year. So by the time I go, it'll have been open a whole year. And hopefully that means there won't be mad crowds. That's amazing. I'm so happy.
I was going to say, and you were supposed to go this summer, weren't you? But you would have missed it.
I was supposed to go last summer, and I would have missed it by a month. And then I was supposed to go this summer, and I would have been there literally for the week it opens. So you can imagine how nuts that would have been. So next year, I'll be there, and it'll have been open a year. So even if I'd gone this year, it would only have been open a year. And don't forget, I went to Disneyland, California, the week after the Guardians of the Galaxy ride opened, and it was nuts. I got on it, but it was absolutely nuts. The whole thing was nuts. I got like a fast pass straight away, and my fast pass was like, I got in at 9:30, and my fast pass was at 5:30, and that would be so. I'm hoping by the time I get there, even if it's still busy, I'll get in via the virtual queue. So I'm delighted. But it looks amazing, by the way.
I was going to say, at least giving yourself like a year out.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew like with down in Florida when they opened up the whole Star Wars area as well, because we knew a couple of people who'd gone down as well and just said it's just insane. Like it's so busy.
And there's no
at least
there was no guarantees either with the virtual queue, because people were getting in there at 8:00. And the virtual queues, fast pass queues were all booked up by 3 minutes. There's videos on YouTube of people like explaining to you how you get onto the virtual queue. Absolutely nuts. So that place looks amazing, and hopefully, actually, in a year's time, there might be more stuff opened, or just everything will have settled down. So
worked out the kinks and all that.
Yeah, massively. So there you go. Thank you if you've been watching us live on YouTube. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the comments and feedback during the show. If you want to, if you've missed parts of the show and you want to watch it as a podcast, it's available always available Friday afternoon generally. If you want to watch the whole show, if you've missed anything, make sure to check that out. Make sure to check us out on Twitter. It is Nerd Social Club. Get us there all during the week. All the information about any breaking news about everything is on there. And also on there, you'll find out our Discord. There's also a link in the description of the YouTube video. Our Discord is amazing. It's non-stop. It's got all breaking news, all the conversations are happening, spoiler tags, everything. So if you want to chat about Falcon and the Winter Soldier straight after you've watched it, you can go in there, and you know that you're not going to spoil it for anyone else or anything else. So yeah. There you go. 4 hours to wait if you want to watch the new Falcon and Winter Soldier, which some people may well be doing. There you go. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week. See you later.
Peace.